Could Mars be colonized in 2024? August 12, 2019. The moon landing in 1969 resulted in a wave of optimism in the expectation that humans would soon conquer space, practically turning it into our new backyard. Could Mars be colonized in 2024? However, progress did not come as expected, and with the closure of NASA's Space Shuttle program, the prospects for more space exploration diminished further. The dream did not die completely, and today, Elon Musk, his SpaceX company and government agencies are working on plans to land humans on Mars by 2024. While it is great that the dream of Mars is still alive, the question is whether this is an achievable goal. Many experts suggest that a Mars colony is nothing but a dream, due to the monumental technical, biological and psychological barriers involved. Was the Mars project nothing more than cultural hyperbole, or was it really possible for humans to make Mars our new home away from the pale blue dot? Challenges of the Mars colony. The technology and the cost. The cost of going to Mars alone would have prevented any serious discussion about landing humans and establishing a colony on Mars. However, Elon Musk's SpaceX pioneered the use of reusable rockets as a means of radically reducing cost. SpaceX has had many problems with this technology, and while improvements and advancements have been made to make reusable rocket technology a reality in the future, we still need to see if this technology will be able to reduce the cost enough while ensuring that provides rockets that are up to the task of landing us on Mars. Terraforming. This term refers to the idea of geoengineering a planet to make it habitable for humans and other life forms. In the case of Mars, this would require altering the atmosphere by injecting gases such as oxygen to initiate a greenhouse effect on Mars. However, the Martian atmosphere is so thin and hostile that terraforming is not viable given the current state of our technology and the weather conditions on Mars. Food and nutrients. Access to a reliable supply of the key resources and nutrients needed to sustain life in the form of calories and minerals we get from food and water on Earth is an immediate and obvious risk to the Mars colony project. The hostile atmosphere, radiation, and toxic soil found on the Martian surface mean that growing food on Mars will be a formidable challenge. Artificially lit underground greenhouses have been proposed as a way to deal with this problem, but there is no clear solution and plan on how food and other basic nutrients will be made available on Mars. The fact that only 3% of the surface of Mars has been mapped makes it even more difficult to determine the ideal location for settlers to land and to establish an initial base where sufficient food and water will be produced. Radiation. Radiation represents the risk of cancer and other potential long-term health complications. Underground bases built inside ancient Martian natural caves have been suggested as a potential solution, but the health risk of radiation is constant and long-term, and there is also no clear solution on how it will be addressed. Microgravity. Reduced gravity on Mars also poses long-term health risks and hazards. These may include heart problems, immune deficiency, muscle and bone deterioration, as well as sensory problems affecting the body's balance, neurological pathways and coordination. NASA has already begun experiments to understand the effects of microgravity, sending astronauts to the International Space Station to spend a year in a gravity-free environment away from Earth as a simulation of conditions on Mars. Data are still being collected and interpreted while NASA hopes to assess whether any negative health effects will be seen in old age. Social and psychological. Last but not least is the psychological effect that a prolonged stay away from Earth is likely to have. Mars settlers will be confined to a crowded, closed environment for a long time, and it is very likely that this may result in some people experiencing psychological breakdowns or increased conflict between settlers. Parallels were traced to the age of sea exploration, where crew members often experienced psychological breakdowns on long sea voyages. The same is likely to happen with some people on Mars, although the severity of the suffering, its symptoms and how to treat it are still being investigated. NASA also conducted the offshore experiment to investigate the effects of prolonged isolation on Mars by performing a simulation on Earth in a Mars-like environment. Meanwhile, SpaceX and Elon Musk continue to play their part, constantly improving technology and reusable rockets, continuously improving Falcon rocket in successive releases. Combined with ongoing cooperation, experiments, and funding from NASA, it is clear that Project Mars is moving forward, regardless of the enormous challenges. Conclusion. Ultimately, Project Mars is a leap of faith. Of course, It is perfectly understandable that Project Mars is described as science fiction once we analyze the true magnitude of the challenges involved. However, the desire to reach the unknown is what makes us human, which is why we believe the challenges will eventually be met and one day we will establish a colony on Mars. We will probably not establish a colony or even land on Mars until 2024.